Hello, and welcome to today, an exciting day. Today is definitely an exciting day. Big Bada Boom Day. This is, if you follow the Ukrainian war bloggers and mill bloggers and all that, you've probably seen the videos for this, and it is quite the fireworks show. The secondaries were going off for hours. And that secondaries are what happens when you have the big initial boom and then it triggers other explosions. It's very common in war situations because you have ammunition, cooking off in there and yeah, lots of big booms. This was not just any place. This was where the Russians were storing uh, missiles for their S-300 and S-400 launchers, which are air ground to air defense, and also Iskanders, which are the air to ground missiles that are fired by their fighters and fighter bombers, and even their, I think, strategic bombers as well. In this war, they'll stand off for hundreds of kilometers and launch them from where the Ukrainians can't hit them. And um, also North Korean missiles. And if they'd had time to get them there, I'm sure the Iranian missiles would also have been there. But I think that those were actually hit a week or two ago, I want to say. Apparently in Rostov region, I think it was. This happened in Tver. Tver is kind of between. I believe that's between yeah. Here's a map. Here's Tver there, and you can see where it is in relationship to Moscow and to Ukraine. It's certainly not the longest hit that we've seen from them, but it's the most spectacular because when you have, you know, hundreds of thousands of tons of explosives, it's also had artillery stockpile there. These are things that they're still able to produce in Russia, but not nearly in the quantities. What Russia's been burning through, what Ukraine has been burning through, all the Russians do is feed it to them bit by bit, is decades of Soviet production. I know I think that we have one tank company or one tank factory in Ohio that they build about 100 tanks a year. That's their capacity. And just like Russia, we just take we take the old tanks and we stick them into a boneyard out in the desert. They don't have deserts. They have deserts, but it's more tundra in Siberia, and doesn't have quite the same preservation as an arid desert in the U.S. does. But it served them, and they had all this stuff, and they kind of okay. Um, I've done a lot of things in my life. I'm trained in. I call myself a very applied anthropologist. Um, I am definitely not an academic. I uh, also geographic information science with a focus in logistics and routing, and as an over-the-road truck driver for 10 years. I've also worked in a factory, working with the shipping department, not part of the shipping department, but coordinating with them. And these are complicated things. I mean, missiles, you have a lot going on there. They have to have the ability to be aerodynamic and precise enough to use in a war situation. And that means meeting extremely tight tolerances. You do not push these out of a factory quickly at all. And this is years and years of production, most likely, going up in flames. It's really, I mean, I know that the image is spectacular. If you see the footage, and I know I saw it on Artur Rehi today. Um, his he did a wonderful. I love his exuberance. He always makes me chuckle and sometimes laugh. And but one of the things is that this stuff can't just be like left somewhere where people are going to be able to access it, right? They're at war. And not only does Ukraine have their own sabotage teams, but there's Russians out there. Now, there are people that were taken from Ukraine decades ago who were shipped to other parts of Russia to try to disperse them. And and a lot of them, they still, their families, they remember, they know what's been done to them. And there's been a lot of sabotage deep within Russia. I mean, I remember something about a power plant or something being hit 1,800 kilometers away. And I'm willing to accept that Ukraine fudges their numbers when it comes to range of their new missile drones and things like that. They say now they can hit up to 1,000 kilometers away. I'm willing to give them more than that because effective. Okay, Western style militaries, we lie about our capabilities. I never served in the military, but I know how we do things. We I all you have to do is look at the history of the weapons programs, and you understand that oh, every weapon system that we have, every new weapon system that we have, is like the worst thing ever. It's a complete boondoggle. It underperforms all that stuff, and then it gets out into the field, and suddenly it's like boom, you have a Bradley fighting vehicle taking out T-72 tanks with regularity. And the thing that everybody bitched and moaned and complained about, and I realize a lot of that could be just kind of a iterative improvement over time on a design, but you don't reveal your full abilities to the enemy. And Russia, the Soviet Union, and Russia have shared a tendency towards exaggeration. Oh, well, we'll just claim these incredibly high specs and then nobody will mess with us. And then the US turns around and it's like, aha, F-22, we gotcha. And they're like, you did it. What? I mean, that was kind of they're like, no, we lied about the specs because we figured nobody would be able to beat that. And we did. And it's we will develop something that can kill you. Give us enough time, and we will engineer something that will end whatever you claim, even if you're outright lying. We will find a way, and it's just kind of interesting to see those two sides. I'm pretty sure Ukraine is just as understated as the U.S. is when it comes to these things. And I've seen some things out of our own system recently that make me, you know, um, kind of like we were complaining, a lot of complaining about the F-35, about how horrible it is, how ineffective it is in combat, and all this stuff. And in the meantime, I'm seeing reports of like Israel uh, having flown F-35s through Syrian airspace without ever triggering anything. And like, yep, apparently they work, and apparently we're just talking up how horrible they are in order to throw everybody off. And I know I am not spilling the beans here. I mean, anybody who is worth their anyone who would be in a position of trying to oppose us would understand this history. And I'm pretty sure that Ukraine lies about its capabilities as well, because that's how you win wars. And you also do it through these big explosions. But these big explosions, they just represent so much work, so much effort, so many man hours. Man hours. Where are the man hours going? The man hours are currently, in little itty bitty pieces all across the Ukrainian steppe, because that's where it is. Putin I think it was last week, he unveiled his the new school policy. So they did away with social studies or something like that, and it said they're being trained that instead there's going to be patriotism classes where they learn how to march and put their guns together and all that, because otherwise they send out, because you only get 3 or 4 days of training with the actual military before you're thrown into the meat grinder in Ukraine. And apparently that's become a bit of an issue for them. So in the meantime, their innovators left. At the first mobilization that Putin ended fairly quickly, they had a bunch of young people just up and leave. A lot of innovators, a lot of their IT sector and all that. That was about the same time that they were sending units that focus on training. They sent them into Ukraine to die. And I mean, that's all that they, to die for another meter or two of advance. It's just horrifying what's happening there. But it's one of those things where it's so vast that you kind of lose focus on what you lose kind of it's their numbers, right? Their numbers, hundreds of thousands of people maimed and killed and stuff, and it's just numbers. These are people who if you work for a state company, which a lot of Russians do, here's you're part of the quota. Here you go. You're being sent out. New regulations being handed down. And all those people lost to Russia, on top of decades of demographic decline, on top, and a lot of it self-inflicted because of Soviet policies. Like point specifically to the last time Russia tried to kill Ukraine, the Holodomor, prior to World War II. And where the Ukrainians were treated like the British treated the Irish. You're going to grow all of our food and we're just going to take it from you and you're going to starve. And that really began Russia's decline, because Ukrainian people have always had a very strong ethic, a very strong work ethic, a love of kind of freedom and doing their own thing. They got slapped around quite a bit between Poland and Russia for the longest time. Left a lot of bad feelings on every side, honestly. But the Ukrainians They were the Cossacks back in the day. Now it's Ukrainians, and they still have that kind of Cossack uh, feel kind of built into them culturally. And they were the ones that built a lot of what the Soviet Union had, which is why when they went their separate ways in 1991, Russia was they had relied on them. Russia was a colonizing state. They were, I mean, it was the Soviet Union, but everybody knew who was in charge. Lenin had a lot of he was a true ideologue and a true believer in, I think, in the principles of communism as he understood it. Stalin was just a brutal dictator from Georgia who ended up being a Russian supremacist, and and uh, uh, and he did horrible things to the Ukrainian people, and that really hamstrung them going into World War II after their partition of Poland failed to protect them against Hitler, because of course nothing was going to protect them against Hitler. Hitler wanted their land, and you know, um, just and of course who bore the brunt of those attacks. It was once again the Ukrainians. Um, Ukrainians died at a much higher rate in World War II than pretty much any other group in Russia in the Soviet Union. There may have been others with but from what I've seen, those are the numbers that's what I see bandied about. Um, Honestly, I'm not an expert on the Eastern Front at all for World War One, World War Two, or World War One really. Uh, Listen to a lot of podcasts. Russia features routinely in the Lions Led by Donkeys podcast by Joe Kasabian, who is, I think he's still living over in Armenia. I haven't actually listened to his podcast in about a year. Last time I heard he was over in Armenia. He was a former tanker with the U.S. Army, and now does. Last I heard, he was a PhD candidate in genocide studies, and Russia has a very genocidal mind bent towards Ukraine. And I'm going to go into why in a little while. Not on this episode, but basically, they don't have the people to do what needs to be done to support the kind of output that they need, manufacturing output. The reason why lack of innovators is important for them is because without a strong tradition of innovation, they can't change their manufacturing processes. They don't have the technical experts to do that. They don't have the kind of creative thinkers you need to say, okay, how do we do this more efficiently? And you can do it more efficiently usually by doing it a dumber way, but doesn't change the basic mechanics. And I mean, they are not going to be going to CNC stuff anytime soon because they don't have access to those kinds of to the kind of toolings necessary for that. And they also have a basic problem of how to get stuff to the front line. And look at that. I mean, I look at that. It's a beautiful, beautiful explosion. The full video is just absolutely gorgeous. With great destruction comes great beauty, I guess. But this presents a problem. in order to build something, you got to have the raw materials. You got to get the raw materials there. In order to build something, you got to have the people to get the raw materials there and have people to do something with the raw materials. And then after that, you have to be able to get the finished goods from the factory to where they're supposed to go. And generally speaking, trains like to run on tracks, and that's how Russia moves. The vast majority of their stuff around is by trains, and tracks are vulnerable. They're vulnerable to disruption. Um, it doesn't take much to disrupt them, really. I mean, the disruption is not going to be big, but that's wasted time, right? That's that if a train is derailed and is blocking the track for a day, that train that derailed is not taking its load to where it needs to go, and it needs to be reloaded onto the train. Especially you're talking about missiles that weigh thousands of pounds. You know, that's a lot of work. You gotta have cranes, you gotta have a crane for the train, or a lot of people to lever it back up. Train's gonna survive. It's just gonna be late. And it might be late every day, depending on how easy it is to get to the track. And you can't protect the track. You can't protect the entire length of a track. Not when and then, I mean, this was an endpoint, right? This was a point of distribution. This was like a big warehouse for big things that go boom. And that infrastructure is gone. I mean, it is nuts. That infrastructure is gone. A lot of specialists who were there who knew how to attend to that stuff, who knew how to distribute that stuff, they're gone. Um, Supposedly, there's pictures of their air defense people not manning their S-300 systems and instead, drinking or whatever. You know, so apparently they survived. For what it's worth, they were probably far enough away that they lived. um, how do you come back from this? Don't know. Uh, I mean, they're going to have a mess. They have a huge logistics mess on their hands, and now they have to figure out that place is gone. All the places that were depending on this stuff, all the air bases and sending the missiles to forward locations, smaller supply depots closer to the front lines. The sub is gone. That stock is gone. Those smaller stocks, well, Ukraine's been hitting them too over time. And now, honestly, I don't speak Russian. I don't speak Ukrainian. Can't read either one. I have no idea how many more giant stockpiles of these things Russia has. What I do know is that this location in Tver is where they were pulling from to get to take it to the various places and along the Ukrainian line of contact where it needed to go, or to stock air defense stuff and all that. Those logistics are all screwed up, and so they're going to have to put together a new plan, new logistics plan, and good luck, man. Good luck. Good luck figuring out under the conditions set by the Putin regime how to make all of this work, how to put it all back together. I mean, I'm sure that they'll find a way. It's not going to be a happy way for anybody involved. And it's Russia. Things are rarely happy for everyone involved. Um, they may not even find a way to make money off of it. I don't know. I just when I'm looking off to the side, I'm just looking at the picture on my cell phone of this, big explosion, and I'm just, it's gone, all gone, bye bye. And as far as the Ukrainians, of course, are happy. These were the Iskanders. These were the North Korean missiles that are being used to hit Ukrainian cities. These were the anti-aircraft, and some like I think I heard that the S-300 can be repurposed for ground to ground, not just ground to air, surface air. I'm not sure that I may be thinking of the Grad. Um, but I thought I saw something about the S-300 being able to be retooled, but 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 I don't. But they're definitely not going to be doing that anymore, regardless, because you got to the ammo. This is big ammo. This big ammo required a lot of big equipment to move it around. That equipment's gone. That the infrastructure's gone. Good luck. And thanks for the fireworks, Ukraine. Really appreciate it.